The paradox of human progress. Are we better off than our ancient ancestors? Imagine stepping back through the corridors of time, becoming one of humanity's earliest inhabitants. You exist within a tight-knit community of perhaps 30 or 40 souls, bound together by necessity and genuine connection. Your relationships with neighboring groups oscillate between alliance and conflict, shaped by the eternal dance of survival. Your days revolve around the fundamental rhythms of gathering plants and hunting animals, where success means another day of life, and failure carries immediate consequences. In this primordial existence, your concerns crystallize into four essential elements: sustenance, water, survival, and the precious moments of rest that punctuate your struggles. Danger lurks everywhere, yet it's straightforward. No complex legal systems to navigate, no governmental bureaucracies to decipher, no economic theories to master, and no organized religious doctrines to follow. Civilization, as we understand it, simply doesn't exist. But here's the profound question that should give us pause. Would this stripped-down existence actually bring you greater fulfillment than your current, modern life? Would you find deeper satisfaction in this simplicity, or would you yearn for the complexities we've grown accustomed to? Is there something inherently more peaceful about a world without institutions, or do our modern structures actually shield us from greater horrors? The evidence suggests a nuanced reality. While you might not have been more virtuous or less exposed to violence in that prehistoric world, quite possibly the reverse, you would have encountered these challenges in their raw, unfiltered form. Violence would have been personal, immediate, and localized, rather than abstract and systematized. Yet your existence would have possessed an undeniable clarity that modern life often lacks: fewer desires to chase, fewer anxieties to manage, fewer expectations to meet. This thought experiment opens doorways to fundamental questions that have captivated philosophers for centuries. What is humanity's true nature? Does progress genuinely improve the human condition, or does it merely dress up our ancient struggles in new clothing? Are technological advancement and societal complexity blessings that elevate our experience, or elaborate distractions that pull us away from more authentic ways of being? It's tempting to romanticize both our personal histories and humanity's collective past, especially when confronted with modernity's overwhelming challenges. We witness devastating wars fought with weapons capable of obliterating entire populations, witness hateful ideologies spreading at unprecedented speeds, observe wealth disparities that would have been incomprehensible to earlier generations, and struggle under social pressures that seem designed to ensure perpetual dissatisfaction. Our technologies, meant to connect us, often leave us feeling more isolated than ever, breeding paranoia and hysteria in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Perhaps no thinker embodied this romantic longing for humanity's past more completely than Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher whose ideas helped birth the Romantic movement itself. When Rousseau envisioned early human existence, he painted an almost idyllic picture. Consider him as he emerged from nature's hands, Rousseau wrote, and you see an animal perhaps weaker and less agile than others, but overall the most advantageously designed. Watch him satisfy his hunger beneath the first oak tree, quench his thirst at the first stream, and make his bed where he found his meal. In this, all his needs are met. For Rousseau, civilization wasn't humanity's crowning achievement, but its greatest tragedy. Rather than lifting us up, it had fundamentally corrupted our noble nature. Rousseau's own life story reads like a testament to isolation and abandonment. Born in Geneva in 1712, he lost his mother just 9 days after birth due to complications from delivery. His father essentially abandoned him at age 10, fleeing to escape criminal prosecution. The young Rousseau bounced between caregivers, his uncle, a local pastor, a watch engraver, and eventually, a noblewoman who briefly became his lover. This turbulent childhood undoubtedly shaped his later philosophical convictions about society's corrupting influence. When Rousseau relocated to France in 1740 to pursue musical theory, he found himself immersed in the intellectual ferment of the French Enlightenment. This period of European history celebrated progress in all its forms. Societies were becoming wealthier, more innovative, more technologically sophisticated, and increasingly interconnected. The prevailing wisdom held that all such development represented unqualified good, that humanity was steadily advancing from ignorance toward enlightenment and prosperity. Rousseau harbored deep skepticism about this optimistic narrative. In 1750, while perusing the French publication Mercure de France, he encountered an essay competition with a deceptively simple prompt: has the restoration of the sciences and arts contributed to the purification of morals? In other words, was modern progress actually making humanity better? This question struck Rousseau like a lightning bolt. He later described the moment: instantly upon reading this, I glimpsed another universe and became a different person. His response to this prompt would establish his philosophical reputation and influence the trajectory of Western thought for generations to come. Rousseau's winning essay, titled Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, delivered a resounding no to the competition's central question. Far from purifying human morals, he argued, the sciences and arts, indeed, civilization itself, had systematically corrupted humanity's inherently good nature. This work, along with his subsequent discourse on inequality, articulated a vision of human development as a tragic fall from grace. Rousseau and his contemporaries referred to humanity's original, uncorrupted condition as the state of nature. For Rousseau, this represented the pinnacle of human existence, characterized by simplicity, authentic self-understanding, genuine connection with others and the natural world, intuitive moral clarity, and overall life satisfaction. This idealized vision rested on his fundamental belief that humans possess inherent goodness, naturally inclined toward kindness and cooperation. According to Rousseau's theory, civilization's emergence destroyed these noble qualities by introducing what he termed amour propre, a toxic form of self-love rooted in pride, greed, and vanity. He contrasted this with amour de soi, the healthy self-regard that characterized pre-social existence, focused on survival and well-being without harming others. Humans are naturally good, Rousseau declared, and it is from social institutions alone that they become wicked. Civilization's introduction of class distinctions, power hierarchies, and property ownership created a competitive environment where individuals constantly measured themselves against others. People became obsessed with appearances, social status, and meeting externally imposed standards of success. Identity formation shifted from internal self-knowledge to external validation, creating what Rousseau saw as a fundamentally alienated existence. The savage lives within himself, Rousseau observed, while social man lives perpetually outside himself, knowing how to exist only in others' opinions. It is from their judgment alone that he derives his sense of existence. This relentless comparison and competition gradually eroded moral behavior as people became willing to sacrifice others' well-being and even their own authentic interests to satisfy society's ever-escalating demands. Rousseau's most influential work, The Social Contract, published in 1762, attempted to address these problems through political theory. Social contract theories explore the appropriate balance between individual rights, freedoms, and obligations within society, essentially the terms of agreement that allow communities to form and function, typically enforced by some sovereign authority. Rousseau's innovative approach placed sovereignty in the hands of the collective rather than individual rulers. Instead of monarchical governance, he advocated for rule by what he called the general will, the consensus preferences of the entire population. Since humans are fundamentally good, he reasoned, maximizing their freedom from artificial constraints would naturally lead to cooperation and moral behavior. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains, Rousseau famously wrote. Breaking these chains required rational cooperation among all society members to establish optimal conditions for everyone. Since each individual would want what's best for all individuals, they would willingly set aside immediate personal interests to determine arrangements benefiting the whole. Paradoxically, this would preserve individual freedom because people would still achieve their natural preferences for cooperation and mutual benefit. The problem, Rousseau explained, is finding an association that defends and protects each member's person and property with the collective force, where each individual, while uniting with everyone else, still obeys only himself and remains as free as before. However, Rousseau's theories face significant practical challenges, particularly in large, complex societies. Even accepting his premise about human goodness and natural cooperation, how could every citizen meaningfully participate in governing a massive, interconnected community? Most people lack either the interest, knowledge, or capability to contribute to all societal laws and structures. If only a subset of engaged, knowledgeable citizens actually participates in governance, the general will becomes decidedly less general, likely resulting in rule by elite classes, precisely what Rousseau sought to avoid. More fundamentally, what evidence supports confident belief in humanity's inherent goodness and capacity for large-scale cooperation? Rousseau's theory requires enormous faith in human benevolence. Will people consistently prioritize collective interests over personal gain when given opportunities for self-advancement? Thomas Hobbes, the 17th-century English philosopher, held precisely opposite views on these crucial questions. Where Rousseau saw natural goodness corrupted by civilization, Hobbes perceived the state of nature as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Without governing authority, he argued, humans inevitably engage in a war of all against all, driven by fear, mistrust, and violence. Hobbes believed this grim reality stemmed from humanity's inherently selfish nature, which could only be controlled through social contracts, where individuals surrender freedom to a central sovereign authority, ideally an absolute monarch, capable of maintaining order and protection. Humans possess sufficient rationality to recognize that civilized structures, led by concentrated power, offer the best hope for preventing chaos and violence. Where Rousseau located corruption in civilization itself, Hobbes placed it at humanity's foundation, viewing civilization as our ongoing effort to contain and channel our destructive impulses, rather than their source. Both philosophers, despite their opposing conclusions, share significant, theoretical weaknesses. If humans are naturally good, as Rousseau claimed, how do we explain their inevitable tendency to create corrupting civilizations? Calling something good simply because it hasn't yet revealed its destructive potential makes little sense, like calling a bomb good because its fuse hasn't yet reached the explosive. Conversely, if humans are naturally bad, as Hobbes argued, how do we account for their ability to consistently create order and beneficial institutions? Truly evil creatures would presumably be incapable of such sustained cooperation and improvement. The truth likely transcends both perspectives. We simply cannot definitively determine whether humans in a hypothetical state of nature were good or bad. We cannot travel back in time to interview our earliest ancestors about their experiences, feelings, and relationships. Even if we could, human behavior cannot be understood in isolation from environmental, social, and temporal contexts. Human existence, societal structures, and moral reasoning are all far too complex for such simplistic categorization. What we can observe is the remarkable reality of what humanity has actually accomplished. Look around at the extraordinary structures, ideas, and systems we've created. The mere existence of complex societies, moral frameworks, and philosophical reflection represents something genuinely miraculous. Our progress may not always be beneficial, and it certainly isn't always harmful, but it is undeniably profound. We have constructed elaborate superstructures upon superstructures, entire worlds held aloft by hope, ingenuity, cooperation, audacity, and rational thought. Of course, we have also destroyed countless worlds, toppling them with those same powerful forces. Perhaps humans are neither inherently good, nor inherently bad. Perhaps we are inherently powerful. The only true universals may be complexity and power itself. We remain young creatures, still learning to understand and control our own strength. Perhaps maturity will eventually teach us wisdom. Perhaps even with age, we will continue carrying both good and evil within our hearts. As the Russian author Alexander Solzhenitsyn observed, the line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart, and through all human hearts. This line shifts inside us, oscillating with the years. Even within hearts, overwhelmed by evil, one small bridgehead of good is retained. And even in the best of all hearts, there remains an unrooted small corner of evil. Understanding our individual identities requires understanding our origins. We are all historical beings, our existences inevitably sprouting from the unique branches of our family trees, planted in specific places and times throughout history. Through exploring our ancestry, we can experience profound moments of discovery and connection, traveling back through hundreds of years of generations to feel that deep interconnectedness with our past. The journey of human progress from those earliest communities to our current complex civilization reflects not a simple story of advancement or decline, but an ongoing exploration of what it means to be human. Whether we are better or worse off than our ancient ancestors may be less important than recognizing that we are fundamentally the same creatures, still grappling with the eternal questions of how to live together, how to find meaning, and how to balance our individual desires with our collective needs. In the end, perhaps the very fact that we can ask these questions, that we can imagine other ways of being, reflect on our nature, and consciously choose our path forward, represents humanity's greatest achievement, not because it makes us good or bad, but because it makes us uniquely, powerfully, and mysteriously human.